Good evening and welcome to the December 1st, 2014 Troy City Council meeting. We are pleased this evening to have Pastor Doug Schmidt from Woodside Bible Church with us this evening to provide the invocation. So if you would please rise and remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, Pastor.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful today for another day of life, thankful for the breath that you've given us. Lord, I'm just thankful for the city of Troy. I'm thankful that you've blessed us with good leadership, safety, harmony and unity in the city for decades now. And Lord, we pray that that would continue. Lord, tonight I pray for cities around the country that don't have this. And Lord, I pray that you would give their officials just real wisdom and safety, and Father, I pray for peace in our land. And Lord, for tonight's meeting, I do pray that you would give wisdom for every decision, give patience, and Father, and give strength to all of our city officials on the council, through the different offices, and Lord, through the police and fire departments. Lord, I pray that you would continue to strengthen each one of them as they serve the city well. And we'll thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. The roll call, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Slater.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming. Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Here.
Councilmember Pennington.
Here.
Councilmember Teets.
We have a quorum. I did receive correspondence from Councilman Fleming and Councilman Teets, so I will hereby move that the Troy City Council hereby excuses the absence of Councilman Fleming due to being out of the county, and to Councilman Teets, who is under the weather, for the meeting of December 1st, 2014. Moved by the chair and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Campbell that we excuse the absences of Councilman Teets and Councilman Fleming as indicated. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Slater.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington.
Yes.
Motion passes. Our first order of business is certificates of recognition and special presentations. And if I could ask Fire Chief Bill Nelson to meet me at the podium. It's our honor to present the Troy Firefighter of the Year, and I will meet you at the podium when you're done, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Assistant Chief Dave Weaver to come forward. Assistant Chief Weaver comes to us with a long history of involvement in the city of Troy and in the Troy Fire Department. Interestingly enough, he is the third generation of his family to serve. He was basically continuously been a member of the Weaver fire family on the fire department since 1940, when Station 1 began with charter members. Assistant Chief Weaver, who has served as a command officer for 28 out of his 38 or 33 years on the fire department, has been very instrumental in mentoring and helping develop a lot of our new firefighters. He's taken that on almost as a second career, if you will. Interesting sidelight, his great-grandfather, Leroy Weaver, who was a charter member at Station 1, this gives you an idea of how far back this goes. He drove the school bus in Troy, okay? And there are unreported incidents where if the siren blew for a fire while the kids were in transport to or from school, that they had an exciting afternoon or an exciting morning because they all got to go to the fire, wherever it might be. But Dave's dad Dave Sr., retired after 27 years with the Troy Fire Department, also as the Assistant Chief at Station 1. So it's kind of gotten to be a family affair there. And Dave's son, Dave III, has been a firefighter for 5 years now with Station 1. So, our process for Firefighter of the Year, basically we accept nominations and we have a group that looks at those and basically chooses the person that they feel most typifies what we're looking for in a firefighter and who has done the kind of things that we want to recognize and reward.
And having said that, it's my honor this evening to present a proclamation to honor David Weaver II, the 2014 Firefighter of the Year. And I know Chief Nelson said a lot that is on the proclamation, but I think it's worth repeating, and if I could, I'd like to read the proclamation this evening. Whereas David Weaver II has been a volunteer firefighter since joining Troy's Fire Station Number 1 33 years ago on September the 6th, 1981. And whereas his selection as Firefighter of the Year is due to his many years of dedication to the Troy Fire Department, having served with honor and dignity in all of his roles at Station 1, including firefighter, lieutenant, captain, and currently Assistant Chief. David Weaver II has served as an officer for 28 of his 33 years on the Troy Fire Department. And whereas Assistant Chief Weaver served as the station training officer while he was a lieutenant and has continually demonstrated a strong commitment to all facets of training in the department. And whereas Assistant Chief Weaver takes a personal interest in the firefighters at his station and is always willing to assist them in any way. He serves as a mentor for his station officers and frequently uses everyday incidents as training scenarios to assist his officers in honing their decision-making skills. And whereas he encourages his officers and firefighters to participate in additional training and be a positive role models in the station and in the community. And whereas Assistant Chief Weaver is a third-generation Troy firefighter, there has been a Weaver serving in the Troy Fire Department since 1940. His grandfather, Leroy, a charter member of Fire Station Number 1, served 35 years, and his father, David Sr., served 27 years at Station 1, retiring as Assistant Chief. David's son, David Weaver III, joined the Fire Department in 2010 and represents the fourth generation of the Weaver family to serve the community as a member of the Troy Fire Department. Whereas Assistant Chief Weaver is committed and knowledgeable volunteer fire officer and also operates an electrical contracting business. A Troy resident, David, and his wife Sharon are very proud of their children, son David III and daughter Caitlin. And whereas through Assistant Weaver's leadership, commitment, hard work, and countless hours of service, the Troy Fire Department has become even more efficient in delivery of quality fire protection to this community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Troy City Council hereby join the citizens of Troy to express sincere congratulations to Assistant Chief David Weaver II on the occasion of being chosen 2014 Troy Firefighter of the Year by the Troy Fire Department. Be it further resolved that the City Council commends David for his achievement, leadership, and dedicated service to the citizens of Troy, presented this first day of December 2014, signed by myself, the mayor, all members of City Council. Congratulations, David, and thanks for your service to the City of Troy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. While I'm here, I'm just going to call C2, which is Troy Roads Rock, a recognition of outstanding service with a presentation of City Manager Brian Kishnick.
Thank you, Mayor. Guests here tonight. When we started the Troy Roads Rock program some 6 to 9 months ago, and it even started planning before that, we had no idea, or I should say, not we, I should say I, had no idea the impact it was going to have, both positive and challenges to get around town. I travel Big Beaver every day, twice a day at least, many times more than that, and Long Lake as well. And I must say, I didn't know that it was becoming an issue, and I'm not the sharpest guy, but when my wife called me the third night in a row, and she couldn't get through on Big Beaver, I knew maybe we needed to do something a little different. So as a result of that, we called a meeting, and many people were involved, and this is a time, after doing such a monumental $12 million program, of which we put in about $5 million and leveraged another $7 million from state and county resources. I wanted to bring the people forward who were part of this Troy Roads Rock program. And I'd like to give credit where credit's due. I cannot remember the first meeting we had when we wanted to get the information out on Long Lake, who came up with the name TroyRoadsRock.com. But I gotta believe Kurt, Alex, or Bill, it was one of you guys, if not all of you, and they're shaking their head. Was it Paul? Paul came up with, how could I forget? Wow. And we get, a lot of people chuckle when we say TroyRoadsRock.com, but the reality is it's stuck, and it was a place for people to get information. But before I talk about the people and what we did, Mayor, I'd like to call everyone up here and have them come stand with us. So if you're here, please walk up and we will begin the recognition process. Kurt Bovensee from the DPW, Tim Richnack, Mike Sackner, Bob Schenk, Ashley Levin, Daryl Raska, Tracy Crane, and Bob Schultz. From engineering, Scott Finley, Bill Hootery, my buddy Joe, Janet Parsons, Steve Van Dett. And from IT, Alex, I see Alex here, and from planning, Paul Evans. From the city manager's office, Mark Miller, Andrew Opolewski, Cindy Stewart. From the police, Sergeant Shuminsky. Come on down. We got a lot to talk about with Sergeant Shuminsky. Officer Stansberry, Officer Linton, Officer Morse, Frank Nastasi. And then we're very fortunate to have from Hubble-Roth and Clark, Robert Dufresne, Courtney Richardson. And from the Road Commission, I have Lisa New, Mike Torres, Gary Petrovich, and Dennis Kohler, but I don't believe they're here. But our friend, where did she go? Rachel Jones from the Road Commission. There she is. So I have a little story to tell. When things, Rachel, please join us from the Road Commission, and thank you for coming. Come on up. Things were getting really bad on Big Beaver, and I honestly, I think we could put this whole group together and we could have a lot of good conversations because it was easy for us to be here when they were out. They were the boots on the ground, all these people who were taking the complaints or the discussions. They weren't really, they weren't complaints. They were just cordial discussions. And with a little bit of concern sprinkled in. But it was bad. It was bad. And I don't know how, if we had a conversation, how we could do Big Beaver again. But we will be talking about it as we go through the winter because there still is some work to be done. But as we called the meeting, and I remember Chief Mayor, come on, Chief Mayor, of course, come on up. He didn't put his own name down, of course. He said, let us and Kurt from the DPW and Tim, let's go out and let's talk to the Road Commission. Let's meet the contractor out on Big Beaver, and let's talk about what we can do. So the Wizard of Oz is Rachel. She would hear from these guys, the boots on the ground, the police guys, who would say, here's what's happening with the traffic. And they tell Rachel she'd be at the computer in Oakland County at the Road Commission, and she would change the lighting, right? And so to try to help alleviate traffic, that is just one small story of many stories, and I received hundreds, if not many hundreds of emails, which doesn't even begin to touch the number of conversations these people all had to make this $12 million Troy Roads Rock program a major job, a major project, but also a major success, Mayor. So we wanted to recognize all these people. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. I didn't get as many emails, I don't think, as Brian did, but some of my emails were actually positive, believe it or not. And I think what happens when you do a project of this type of magnitude, it takes a team to make sure that it works properly. And the City of Troy is always an example to others of how you do it. And this group here, on behalf of the Troy City Council, we can't thank you enough, because we're going to benefit from all of the accolades now. You know, we put up with this during a time period during the summer, but now all you have to do is drive from Troy into Macomb County, and you quickly see how much better it is in Troy. And if you go west, you see the same thing. So we got it done quickly, and in some respects we had to do it quickly, because some of the money, if you didn't use it, you lose it, type of thing. And hopefully everybody understands that. Sometimes there's some pain for gain, and you know, we couldn't thank you enough for all that you did to make sure that this happened, and here we are today being able to brag once again about our city. So thank you all for participating in everything you did. Thank you so much. I don't have an award or anything.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Chiclets or something.
Thank you, Brian. That's quite an accomplishment, really. Next on the agenda is C3, which is the GFOA Awards, with the presentation by Director of Financial Services, Tom Darling. Good evening, Tom. This is going to be an exciting presentation, right?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Yes, I'm very excited. For me, this is the Super Bowl, World Series, Stanley Cup, all wrapped into one. I'm going to talk tonight a little bit about celebration, and that's celebrating last year's financial statements and some awards that we've attained because of those, and then talk about the financial results for our 2014 fiscal year. Yes, Brian, that was a very impressive recognition program and well-deserved, but I'm going to take a stab at it myself with some of our finance people that work for our team. So I'd like to start tonight with talking about the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, which happens to look like this. We won so many now that they used to give us a separate plaque every year, but because we've won so many, they've just given us one really impressive one, and now they just add buttons for every year that we attain it. So I'd like to start off, if I could, by welcoming up Lisa Burnham, our accounting manager, along with Anita Halprin, Renee Hazen, and Kathy Kostopoulos from our finance department. If you would join me up here. If you want to come up.
Okay.
You're so good at it. Well, and while you're maybe presenting that, I'll read off what it's about.
Sure, but
Right.
how are you, everybody?
This award for the 2013 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or the CAFR, the Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel from across the nation to meet the highest standards of program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, transparency, and the ability to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users or user groups to read the CAFR. There are 1,775 cities or villages and townships in Michigan, of which only 6 have received both awards. So this puts us in the 99.996 percentile in this state. This is the 17th consecutive year that the city has achieved this prestigious award. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tom. And on behalf of the City Council, congratulations. And it's my honor to present the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the people that do really all the work. We reap the benefits of getting all these awards, but it's your hard work that we can get these type of awards. So congratulations once again. Thank you. Different people. Yeah.
Next, we have the Award for Outstanding Achievement in Popular Annual Financial Reporting, or the PAFR. I'd like to invite Cindy Stewart, our Community Affairs Director. The Award for Outstanding Achievement in Popular Annual Financial Reporting is a prestigious national award recognizing conformance with the highest standards for preparation of state and local governmental popular reports. In order to receive the award for outstanding achievement, a government unit must publish a popular annual financial report, the PAFR, whose contents conform to program standards of creativity, presentation, understandability, and reader appeal. The governmental unit must also receive the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, which you've seen. This marks the 15th consecutive year the city has achieved this prestigious award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And on behalf of the Troy City Council, really it is an honor to present the award for Outstanding Achievement in Popular Annual Financial Reporting to Cindy Stewart, who is representing the city, and it's presented to the city of Troy in Michigan. Congratulations. Thank you. She takes the pictures. We need a backup.
Take a selfie.
Yeah.
You may have to because I'm not very good at this.
It's on the floor by you, Dave.
Here, he's coming up with a real camera.
Got a real camera.
Come up.
All right, you're out, Tom.
You're out, Tom. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, that proves everything that we know about accountants, doesn't it?
Finally, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. Thank you. I'd like to invite Beth Tashnik, Sarah Sala-Undin, and Maggie Hughes from the City Manager's Office. I'm thinking 2 out of 3 is not bad. The Distinguished Budget Award reflects the commitment of the City Council and staff to meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. In order to receive the budget award, the city had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. These guidelines are designed to assess how well the city's budget serves as A, a policy document, B, a financial plan, C, an operations guide, and finally, a communication device. Nationally, only 1,424 participants received this award. In the state of Michigan, only 8 entities received all 3 awards. Of these 8 entities, 3 are counties, 1 is a community college, and 4 are cities. This puts us in the 99.36 percentile for financial reporting in the state of Michigan to our stakeholders. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tom, and once again, on behalf of the Troy City Council, it's really my honor to present the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, and with a presentation to the City of Troy. Thanks for representing the city so well and making us the best. Congratulations.
I'm sure they want to say a few words.
Well, I'll take that as an invitation then,
There you go, Doug.
to kind of wrap it up. So the question is, why? Why do we go the extra mile to win these awards? Because we believe in doing government the best. And it is these types of things that demonstrate fiscal stewardship, transparency, and long-term financial planning and accountability that helps us achieve that goal, along with maintaining our AAA bond rating. Finally, although we've recognized only a few, it is a team effort by all city staff really to make this all come together. So it's all the city staff and the support of the mayor and city council. So again, I'd like to thank you all for your help in achieving the triple crown of financial reporting again for 2013. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Next on the agenda is C4, the audit presentation by Tom Darling, once again. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I've got a brief presentation to kind of go over the June 30th, 2014 fiscal year results, of which you've all received a copy of our comprehensive annual report for 2014, along with a copy of what we'll be presenting for the popular annual financial report, which is basically a summary of this document. Let's go ahead and get started. Basically, I want to just go through what's in this comprehensive financial report. It's a 176-page document, which is up 20 pages from the prior year. So from a financial perspective, we've already gained 11.36%. But it doesn't quite work that way, right? Let's go through the 4 main sections in this document. The first is the introductory section, and in this section it contains kind of an executive summary, details of our organization, financial results at the fund level, and it's really a great place to start if you're looking for just a quick overview or kind of want to get a base for a more in-depth review. The second section, which starts on page 17, is the financial section, and this is really the meat and potatoes of the report. It really starts off with a governmental-wide level, which again is on page 17, and really this is a full accrual report, or it's based like a business. What is the true cost? It has capital assets, long-term debts, all included in it. So again, it's more like a business-type financial statement. In here you also find fund-level financial statements, which is really the basis in which we budget and manage the city funds. In here you also have notes to the financial statements, which gives additional financial details, required supplementary information on pension funds and retiree health care systems, and finally combining statements for some of our non-major fund types. Next is the statistical section on page 135. This is an interesting section. It gives a lot of historical performance type indicators, 10 years of financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity of the city, demographics and economic data, which is kind of interesting to see how the city is done in those areas, operating information, and continuing disclosures. Finally, the single audit section is on page 167. And this is because we receive a certain amount of federal awards, basically over $500,000 in federal awards. And basically, as you know, with any kind of federal awards, strings come attached, right? So basically what this section shows is that we are pulling the right strings as far as that we are in compliance with the federal guidelines and that we have internal controls over those major programs. Well, no CAFR would be complete without an audit of those financial statements, so we are lucky to have Jerry DeSlover from the Raymond Group. Jerry oversees the governmental assurance services at the Raymond Group. He's a certified public accountant and a certified governmental financial manager. Jerry, could you give us a second and tell us what your report summarizes, please?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks, Tom. Just quickly, the state of Michigan requires you to have an independent audit. So the document you have was prepared by your staff. We audited this document. The result of the audit resulted in 3 opinions, one in the front on page 17, and that's an opinion on the financial statements themselves. It's an unmodified opinion, which means there's no modifications to the standard opinion, called a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that you can receive from a CPA. And then Tom mentioned the single audit. In the back, there's 2 additional opinions, one at the governmental compliance at the financial statement level and one at the federal compliance for the federal dollars. I think you received $2.5 million. So we have to test your major programs to make sure there was no problems with that, no question cost. The question cost you have to pay back. There were none of those. There were no findings, no question cost in this audit. So a very good audit, very strong financial position at the end of the year, as Tom will go through here shortly. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. It's always good news.
It's always good news. Thank you, Mr. DeSlover. Okay, next we're going to dive down, like I said, in the financial section. There's the first part's the governmental-wide financial statements. Basically, the focus is on the government as a whole, includes all the funds, both our governmental funds and our business-type funds. It uses a full accrual basis of accounting, which means basically you have capital assets in there, long-term debt. It focuses on the economic condition of the entity as opposed to near-term spendable resources. Net position, which is the bottom line, you have fund balance, and then in this case you have a net position. It's not necessarily a spendable resource, but rather indicates the long-term aspects of short-term financial decisions. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. If you go to the third column on page 33, and go to the bottom, you can see that we have $427 million of net position. Again, this isn't dollars per se, it's economic capacity really for future service. This is not spendable, as we'll see later, and you would expect a steady increase in this over the years because basically what we spend on roads, water, and sewer systems increase. It costs more every year. So a good indicator of financial strength is that we are investing back into the city, that we're not spending it all on operations and we're investing it back in. So that is a good sign of financial health. Next, we'll break down this $427 million into some of its major components. Again, as I said, it's not necessarily all spendable. In fact, a major portion of it is our investment in capital assets net of related debt. You can see that, which went from $296.9 million down to $287.4 million. This is the result of the DDA financing because we took on more debt that offsets those assets. Our investment in capital assets, net of the debt, would naturally decline. Now, again, the bond was about $14 million, but we only went down about 9.5, right? So it's telling me that we still invested, around $5 million in the capital assets. That wasn't there. The remaining, again, the DDA is paying off the debt. So you see there's an increase in our restricted assets from about 18 to 25 million and in the unrestricted net assets. Again, we have a long-term receivable that we're expecting the DDA is going to pay off that debt over the next few years. Okay, that's why you see those changes. Next, let's break down then some of our governmental program revenues and expenditures. Again, this is on page 34. So what this is trying to represent is really what is the net cost of the services that we provide. The idea is the shortfall between the program revenues that a program will generate as opposed to its expenses is what we use tax dollars on, really, to cover that void. In fact, it's kind of funny that we had someone from our FIT team, Nick, ask for this kind of presentation. What is the true cost of some of the programs that we run? So this would show that type of relationship. By far, we can see that public safety is the largest. It did generate about $4.6 million in grants in its own revenues through charges for services, and the cost is about $28.9. So again, the idea is that taxes cover that void. Next, let's talk about the fund financial statements. So we're done with the governmental wide. Let's talk about the fund financial statements, which is really how we budget and how we manage the city. Again, the focus is on near-term inflows and outflows. In other words, fund balance, how much unspendable resources do we have? It uses a modified accrual basis of accounting. Revenues are recognized when earned and available. And the basis, and again, like I said, it's the basis for our budgeting and financial management decisions. So let's go ahead and look at the general fund. Again, for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2014, we generated $49.2 million to a budget of $48.3 million. Again, this was about $900,000 over budget, and it's primarily related to charges for services from community center passes, engineering fees, and building fees. And again, you can see we've been pretty good over the last few years of making our budget. There were a couple years back in the late 2009-10 where we didn't quite make it, but the last, from 2011 on, we've been pretty good about making our budgeted revenues. Again, we budget conservatively. So let's go ahead and break those revenues out by type. Again, by far, our largest type is our tax revenues, which represents about 55% or $29.6 million. Next, charges for services were about 15%, and our state shared revenue and other type of intergovernmental revenues was about 12%. Together, this accounts for about 82% of the general fund's revenue sources. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of those. Again, you can see at the top graph is our decline in taxable value since 2008. Again, that decrease of about $7 million from $36.7 million in 2008 down to about $29.6 million in 2014. But the good news is it looks like we've reached the bottom of the 2008 recession, if you will, that I see in 13 and 14, that we're starting to hold steady in the major portion of our revenue sources. The other part then in charges for services in our governmental activities in 14, charges for services were about $7.8 million, and our shared revenue and other intergovernmental was about $6.6 million. Now it's funny, if we look at 2014 compared to 2005, they kind of switched, right? In 2005, our intergovernmental or state shared revenue was about $7.4 million to $6.5 million. So they kind of reversed, but together add up to be about the same. So just thought I'd point that out. It's an interesting concept. Next, let's look at our general fund expenditures, budget to actual. Again, this shows that we have been good stewards of the city's dollars in that we have been under the appropriated budget by council. Now, again, we do budget conservatively. It should be noted that when we budget for full employment. Okay, but again, through attrition, we don't always attain full employment. We also, when it comes to our health care, we budget using illustrative rates, but we pay on actual claims. And knock on wood, we've been lucky the last couple years. It doesn't necessarily always going to be that way, but as long as we stay healthy, typically our claims will be less than what the illustrative rates used to budget are. So let's break down then expenditures by function. Again, 57% or about $28 million is related to public safety and is by far our largest expenditure program, followed by general government, roads, and recreation are between 12 and 13%. So if we put that all together, what's the financial picture look like? And I know there's a lot of lines on this one, but we can see if we start with starting in 2012, our revenues From 12 through 14, we're in excess of our expenditures, which means that we added the fund balance. We had a surplus, okay? And you can see then below that next group of 3 lines is our unassigned fund balance, which also grew. Okay, starting in 15, we've budgeted to use that surplus primarily for Troy Roads Rock and for Fire Station number 4, that we've earned this surplus and we're going to use them really for our biggest needs, and that's in the capital area. So we've appropriated those funds to use that, and as you can see that our unassigned fund balance at least is budgeted to go down, so that by 2017 we're going to be between that 20 and 30% guideline that we've set for ourselves to be in. Next, I'd like to talk about the Capital Projects Fund. We had revenues of $16.8 million and expenditures of $14.3 million. It should be noted that in the revenues of that $16.8 million, that really only $6.5 million is related to property taxes. The rest of that, or basically about $10 million, is from grants, contributions, and transfers to help fund the capital projects that we want to do. So as you can see that the fund balance then would have increased by $2.5 million. We had a surplus of about $2.5 million, but I think we need to be a little cautious about that because we've really kind of already appropriated that. What happens in the capital project, especially when it comes to road, is our fiscal year ends in June. Right? We appropriated really at least $2.5 million from general fund transfers, which we need to get over to the capital fund because appropriations lapse. But the road project may not be done, right, by June 3rd. We still have a lot more season to go through. So we need to be careful, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, capital project then, what did we spend that $14 million on? By far, the largest was roads, 52%, or about $7.5 million related to Troy Roads and the Troy Roads Rock program. We also had a major drain project this year that was about $2.2 million over by the Aquatic Center. And those are your big ones. And again, we talk about the capital project fund balance. I mean, we've really been declining over the last few years, and something that we're going to have to pay close attention to as we go into the next budgeting season. Let's talk about our enterprise funds, basically our water and sewer funds. Let's start off with that. We had revenue about $15.1 million, expenditures of $15.5 million, which really then, as you can see, is an operating loss this year. The big part was really in revenues. We went from $16 million down to $15.1 million, or a loss about $900,000. By far, it's a loss in volume. We lost about 15.5% in volume. So, because, right, my revenue is rate-driven and volume-driven, right? But the rate stayed flat, and we lost about 15% in volume. So we're going to have to look at that the next time we go into the next budget process about how that's all going to work. Now, coupled with that, Detroit Water Sewer didn't care, right? They, for 14, it was one of our, what they call a review year, and so we went up about 8 to 10% in costs in our fixed fees and in our variable rate fees. So that's the result of that. It should also be noted that in our first quarter 2015, we are still down in volume amounts compared to where we should be at. Okay, let's talk about the fund balance now, the net position. And it should be noted that our investment in capital assets went up by $2 million, and our unrestricted went down by $2 million. So what that's telling me is the resources we had, we put back into the system, right? $2 million went up in the investment in capital assets, which was resources that we had basically in net position, unrestricted net position, okay? So we spent $2 million on infrastructure. We didn't use it in operations, that's what I'm trying to say. So look at the sewer fund, again, it's a very similar story to the water fund in that, again, we bill both water and sewer based on water rate volumes, and the volumes are down, so therefore our revenues are also down. We went from $13 million down to about 12.5 in revenues, a loss from a revenue side of about $500,000. We had an operating loss of about $400,000. Again, it's a reduction in volume, but an increase in rates from the Oakland County Water Resource Authority, who we pay for our sanitary sewer things of about 6%. Finally, then, let's look at its net position. We actually did not invest too much in the sewer system for this year. As you can see from depreciation, we went from $34.8 million in capital assets down to $33.1. That's really a function of depreciation. However, our unrestricted went up from 31.3 to 32.8. So what this is telling me, in my eyes, that yeah, we didn't invest much into the sewer system. However, we have the resources to do that into the future, and probably will, and we'll need to. Finally, let's talk about Sanctuary Lake. Sanctuary Lake had $1.3 million in revenues and $1.4 million in expenditures. Again, we had a little increase in revenues, about $40,000 compared to the prior year. However, our expenditures went up to about $150,000, and that's primarily due from operations, about $33,000 in personal services, about $40,000 in repairs and maintenance, and probably a big one is some of the golf cart leases. We were kind of lucky in 12 and 13. We held off on leasing the new golf carts, and as you know, you could tell, and we thought we needed to do that for 14 really to keep our market space. Sanctuary Lake, when it comes to operating income and operating expenses, we had non-operating expenses of about $328,000. In other words, we had interest expense because we have debt for Sanctuary Lake. So the non-operating expense was $328,000. We try and earn revenues from operations to at least partially, if not fully fund our the debt, okay? And we had some success in 12 and 13. Unfortunately, in 14 we didn't. Again, as I talked about the revenues and expenditures being down. Expenditures being up, revenues being down. Again, when it comes to golf, it's a weather-related industry. So we know we had a prolonged winter, along with kind of a wet spring and summer with a junior end. That's looks like we were down about $68,000 from operating income. So we didn't quite cover any of our non-operating expenses this year. But we're working on it, and we need to work forward as we go through the budget season on how that's going to work. Finally, some good news, though, is our trust funds. And I'm happy to announce that the pension system is over 100% funded. This is an exceptional accomplishment. The retiree health care fund is 59.2 funded. Although it's not at the ERS level, it's certainly better funded than most communities that I know of in the area. And I think, Gary, can I get a nod? Absolutely. The volunteer fire incentive program is 38.1% funded. Now, again, this is a little bit different, and we're taking steps to try and help this. As you remember, we've agreed to set up a trust, and that's going through. So once we get that trust set up, we may have the ability to allow us to use some better investment opportunities that might be up there once we can get it in a trust environment. It also reflects the change in benefit multiplier for the volunteers that we had approved, that escalating system through 2018. So that's built in there. Which is good. That gives us more of a realistic look at where we're at today as opposed to a couple years ago. Almost there, guys. Finally, the statistical section, again, I already talked about, has some interesting information on financial trends, revenue and debt capacities, demographic, and other information that is really worth throughout a tank of perusal through that. Finally, our 2014 CAFR that I'm presenting tonight, we will submit to the GFA for the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting, and we're hoping that we'll make it 18 in a row. And who has the first question?
Any questions for Tom from council?
If I can, as I mentioned before, the pension system is now over 100% funded. I'd like to invite the members of our pension board up for some special recognition, if I could, on this outstanding accomplishment. If I could invite up our chairman, Mark Calise, trustee Tom Gordon, trustee Milt Stansberry, ex-official Bill Mead, trustee Dave Henderson, trustee Brian Kishner,
Thank you, Tom. Great job. I think you're making it about as exciting as you possibly could. You know, numbers aren't really exciting, but thank you for moving us into C5, which is a recognition of this great team that was put together to get us over 100% funded. So thank you all for what you do for the city. It's basically all volunteer positions. There are some that are paid positions, but it's mostly volunteer. And the city of Troy certainly thanks you for your service. And it's really an honor for me to present a proclamation to you gentlemen of appreciation to the City of Troy Employee Retirement Systems Board, which you comprise. And I'll read this if I could, because I think it's very important that the people out there understand what these gentlemen do, and we should thank you greatly for your service. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 10 of the Troy City Code, the Employee Retirement Systems Board of Trustees approves employee retirement requests, oversees retirement health care coverage, and manages pension investments. The board consists of 8 members, including a Troy resident, a city council member, 2 active employee defined benefit members, a defined contribution member, the city manager, the director of financial services, and a non-voting retiree from the defined benefit plan. And whereas board members include Chairman Mark Schalise, Thomas Darling, Thomas Gordon, Dave Henderson, Brian Kishnick, Steve Pilata, Milton Stansberry, and William Need ex officio. Quite a title, Bill. And whereas the City of Troy has a fiduciary responsibility to its retired employees to assure that resources are available for earned pension benefits, and I thank you from my heart for that, myself personally. And whereas the city relies on the Employment Retirement Systems Board to be prudent in managing pension resources to limit risk while leveraging returns, and whereas the pension system is now 101% funded as of the actuarial valuations from December 31st, 2013, which reduces the city's required contributions to the system. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Troy City Council, on behalf of its residents, express their appreciation to the Employee Retirement Systems Board in recognition of outstanding service. And be it further resolved that the Troy City Council members express the city's appreciation and recognition to the Retirement Board for their superb financial management and commitment to our dedicated retired employees. Presented this first day of December 2014, signed by myself, all members of City Council. And once again, thank you so much for your service. Congratulations. Mark, would you like to say a couple words on behalf of the board? Put you on the spot, but...
Okay. I've been on the retirement board for a little over 15 years, enjoyed every minute of it. The benefit that we have as a group on the board is we have had some good advisors, and through the good and bad times, which we have seen a few in the last 15 years, it's been hold steady and just look forward and not panic when things go a little negative and not get too optimistic when things go positive. So with that, we've held, I just think, a great group of people that have been very prudent in watching the investments.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again to everyone that participates on that board. It's a very important board to the city. Next is C6, which is 15 for 15, a presentation by Charisse Salah-Anden, our assistant to the city manager, and Andrew Opolewski, marketing coordinator. Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice of you to join us.
Council members and city staff.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So sorry to throw another number at you up there. I promise it'll get better. But there's around 6,000 businesses in the city of Troy at any given time. And the range of businesses that we have is so vast. They're in all different industries. Some of them interact with each other. Some of them don't interact with anybody. But one common theme is that they're all taken into account when we look at our city's master plan. As many of you know, we're updating our current master plan, which is from 2008. And one of the main initiatives is to highlight 4 key sub-areas, and those are North Troy, Rochester Road, the Big Beaver Corridor, and the Maple Road Corridor. 15 for 15 is designed to highlight the Maple Road Corridor. Now, when governments typically do things like this, you'll see a lot of things like this. Sorry, Tom. It was too easy. It was a softball. But, you know, there's a lot of numbers here. There's a lot of data. There's a legend. It's color-coded, and that's wonderful. This information, it's very important, and it's data that is integral to businesses or governments, whatever, whomever is presenting it. But a lot of times you need context, or you need to be an accountant to understand it. So it doesn't really tell the story that you want to without a little bit of help. So when city staff got together and wanted to promote and market Maple Road Corridor, we decided to do something a little different, do something that the city of Troy had never done before. And so 15 for 15, we're going to show you a quick intro video right here.
A city. It's a place, right? It's a network of roads and pathways. It's a geographical location. Cities can be defined by land area, by monetary value. But sometimes we get lost in the effort to measure and compare in such a logical manner. It loses meaning. It loses touch with how innately human and illogical we can be. Every part of a city shares one commonality, one irrevocable truth. It has a story. It has a reason for existence, which is impossible to measure logically. We all have a story. Come discover some of ours.
Very nice.
So 15 for 15. It has 15 stories. In January of 2015, we'll launch the short video series that we have created. They're short film documentaries of the 15 businesses, and our intent is to launch one video per week for 15 consecutive weeks. The video would stay up for about a week, and then we'll launch another one. So how did this all start? How are we, what was the concept about? Well, most of you are familiar with the Maple and Livernois corner. There was a vacant Kmart site there for many years, and MJR Theater was the perfect fit, and it brought the energy that that area needed. Therefore, it became the catalyst for 15 for 15. And going from there, we have city staff decided that, you know, that story in its own is noteworthy. And so there are a lot of other great businesses and great stories that Maple Road has, so why not highlight some of those? And that's how 15 for 15 originated. In January 2015, we will be having a premiere launch event to promote the video series. We will be inviting all of the participants that contributed to this campaign. The contributors for 15 for 15 are on the screen right now, and they're also reflected in the council memos that you guys have. We're really excited about this project. We've had a lot of fun creating the project and getting to know the business owners and getting to know their unique stories. And we're hoping that you would have just as much fun watching the videos and learning about the different businesses on Maple Road that Troy has to offer. The videos will be launched through 15for15.com. And that's it. Thank you.
We look forward to it. Thanks. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the certificates of recognition and special presentations this evening. So we will move on. Next, there are no carryover items. So our next item of business is public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. The Reprogramming Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program, year 2013 funds, with an intro by Kurt Bovensieep. Good evening, Kurt.
Good evening.
I'm going to open the public hearing.
Thank you. This is actually a reprogram, if you will. Back in August of this year, we reprogrammed the 2013 Community Development Block Grant funds to Milverton Park. During that process, the 2010 census was collected through HUD, and the qualifying area was changed. Milverton Park is no longer in the qualifying area. We met with the county officials that administer the Community Development Block Grant funds, and we went over several projects, including the Historic Village. We took a visit there. We showed the lady from the county some of the structural barriers that persons with disabilities are faced with to access the museum and its grounds. Agreed that the money would be best suited to remove some of these structural barriers, which include the general store and creating a new ADA accessible ramp from the museum itself into the museum grounds, and hopefully in the future include ADA accessibility to the Barnard Niles house, which is much needed.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience regarding E1 this evening? I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for a resolution. Councilman Pennington.
I'd like to move E1, the reprogramming funds, as printed.
E1 is moved by Councilman Pennington, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Campbell, that we approve E1, the Reprogramming Community Development Block Grant Program for the year 2013 funds. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Bidner.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington.
Yes.
Mayor Slater.
Yes. Motion passes. I think that's a good use of the funds. I don't see that anyone has signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. So we will move on to regular business, as there are no postponed items. There are no board or committee appointments this evening. So I-2 is board and committee nominations. There are no mayoral nominations this evening. I will move the microphone to Mayor Pro Tem Campbell for City Council nominations.
Thank you, Mayor. We, for the Building Code Board of Appeals, I put forth two names. One is Andrew Schuster to replace Michael Corligan, who would expire. He will expire in 1/1/2020 is when his term would expire, and we'd like to reassign or reappoint Theodore Zerman to the same position. He also will be on there till 1/1/2020.
Could I have the name again of the first one?
Andrew Schuster, SCHUSTER, and Theodore Druzman for the second position.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Campbell and supported by Councilman Henderson. that we nominate for the Building Code Board of Appeals, the terms that expire 1/1/2020, Andrew Schuster and Theodore Druzman. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Bittner?
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes. Any others this evening?
No, because as we spoke, the Liquor Advisory Board, we have to have a student, and we're short on students. So if anybody's out there at the high schools who would like to get involved in the city government, there's a good opportunity to do so. But at this point, we have nobody else, so we'll let that go.
Thank you. I am going to reappoint, or ask for reappointment of Karen Cruz to the Planning Commission. I just didn't speak to her yet. I will before the next council meeting. Next is I3. There is no request for a closed session this evening. So we will move to I4, amendments to the Troy City Code, Chapter 93, Fire Prevention, with an introduction by Fire Chief Bill Nelson. Good evening.
Evening again, Mayor and members of council. The International Code Council, who publishes the International Building Code, does it on a 3-year cycle. And the state of Michigan adopts that code. Takes them about 2 years from the time the code is promulgated to make their local amendments to it. And the 2012 code has just been adopted by the state on November 1st of this year. There is also a companion international fire code that mates perfectly with the International Building Code, which we always endeavor to adopt about the same time that the building code goes into effect. What you have before you tonight is the International Fire Code with the amendments that we have to make based on either state law, in some cases potentially federal law, or our local ordinances to make sure that we don't have any conflicts in the code. I apologize for a little glitch that we had in our revision control. That coupled with a short week wound up with having you get a previous version and not the latest version, but that should have been rectified, and I believe you have the current version now. Assistant Chief Roberts and I are here to answer any questions you might have about the substance of the code or concept or anything like that.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief this evening regarding this? I think we got a chance to take a look at it. It's can be overwhelming, but when you look at it, it's best to adopt what we are required to adopt. So that's the way I look at it. Thank you. Anyone on council wish to move this resolution?
Mayor.
Councilman Henderson.
I'll move I-4, amendments to the Troy City Code, Chapter 93, Fire Prevention, as printed.
That is the printed copy that was put on our desk as the yellow copy this evening, correct? Support, any support?
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we approve I-4 as printed on the yellow sheet that was put on the table this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Bittner?
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you for all your hard work, and the City Attorney's Office also for their assistance. I will call I-5, which is an amendment to the Troy City Code, Chapter 3, Administrative Service. Once again, an introduction by the Chief.
Chapter 3, basically, administrative service empowers certain city employees to issue certain types of violations for certain types of offenses. And over the years, as the city code changes, we eliminate chapters, we add other chapters, and this is basically just a cleanup to make sure that we're enforcing things that exist and we don't enforce things that don't exist. So that's basically all it is.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councilman Pennington.
I was just going to move forward.
That's,
I will move I-5, amendments to the Troy City Code, Chapter 3, Administrative Service with the late submittal change as printed.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Pennington, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Campbell, that we approve I-5 as printed on the table this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Bittner?
Councilmember Pennington,
Yes.
Mayor Slater,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you for your hard work once again. Next is the consent agenda. Are there any consent agenda items that council wishes to pull this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Campbell.
Yes, I have nothing to take out, so I will move the consent agenda ahead exactly as it's presented.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Campbell, supported by Councilman Henderson, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as presented and printed in the agenda packet. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Bittner?
Mayor Slater,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Campbell,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick,
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington.
Yes.
Motion passes. If you were here on a consent agenda item this evening, they have all been approved. Next is memorandums and future council agenda items. There are none submitted. Next will be public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I will first call on Richard Peters, Troy resident. Good evening.
Mayor, Council, people of Troy. Hello, my name is Richard Peters. As some of you may know, I'm running for City Council. I don't expect to get the job, but I do feel I owe it to the people and my conscience to clear the air. I'm not a perfect person, and my window jumping days are pretty much over. And if anything comes out, I probably wouldn't deny it unless it wasn't true or I felt I was being trapped, so like the internet or something. However, I won't be anybody's marker. I'll try to be a team player if I could, but I'll always try to keep the interests of the city of Troy at heart. I just wanted to say that my heroes growing up were John Kennedy and Babe Ruth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your interest. Next is Nicholas Chiricero, Troy resident. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Nick Chiricero, Troy resident for 41 years. It's my pleasure, Mr. Mayor, to invite you, all the council members, and all the residents of Troy to invite you to an event. It will be held tomorrow night at the American Polish Cultural Center, located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Maple and DeQuinta Roads at 7 p.m. We will present Chris Ann Hall. Ms. Hall is a constitutional expert who will go back in time to trace the origins of our government. If you have not heard Ms. Hall, you're in for a treat. She is an entertaining and dynamic speaker who will fascinate you with her expertise. On Wednesday night, she'll be at Shields Pizza, located at 1476 West Maple, also at 7 p.m. There she will discuss the Fourth Amendment and 24/7 surveillance. There is a limited seating at this location, so please reserve a seat through Eventbrite. On Thursday, she will be at the Bloomfield Trustees Auditorium, located at 4200 Telegraph Road in Bloomfield Hills, again at 7 p.m. Her topic there will be the importance of state sovereignty and the 10th Amendment. Remember, if you don't know what your rights are, you will not know what you are losing. Please come. I think you'll find it very informative, and I have some handouts for you
if you could give those to the city clerk, please. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. There are no council referrals this evening, so we will move to council comments. Any council comments this evening? I just wanted to make a comment that we presented a proclamation at the special study session this evening at 6 because the recipient couldn't be here for our normal meeting. And if you get a chance, please take a look at it. It's a proclamation to a wonderful young man that grew up in Troy, graduated from Troy High School, and went on to make a name for himself. His name is Stephen Young, and he's one of the main characters on a show on cable TV called Walking Dead, and he is a wonderful kid that comes from a good family. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. We enjoyed having him here tonight. Next is reports. Are there any comments on any of the reports that were in the agenda packet this evening? I just want to point out O2A, which is a public opinion survey. I think it's a great idea to always get opinions, and if you get a chance, take a look at this item in the packet. It gives a timeline. I don't know if, Mr. Kishnick, did you want to say anything about that this evening, or just the document speaks for itself?
The document speaks for itself. The only thing I would add to that, Mayor and City Council, is this is our continuing efforts of Interaction Troy to get feedback from residents and a variety of topics to make sure that our direction is in the right way, and we're working together with all aspects of the community. So that's what it's all about.
Thank you. And not to take a back seat, but O2B and C, our comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR, and the popular annual financial report that, if you have time, it's enjoyable reading. There are no citizens that signed up for comments on items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy. There is no closed session this evening, so we are adjourned. Thank you for coming this evening.